to the Wayfaring Panda. My name is Annette. Today's hop is with the Handmade Happiness group, and this is called Back to Basics. The challenge is to make a card using minimal supplies and easy techniques, kind of going back to the beginning of card making, instead of having all the latest techniques and gadgets. So the card I'm making is a baby card inspired by quilt making, and it's basically just paper piecing and just a minimal amount of stamping. So you could do this with any paper that you have and stamps. So I planned out my card just like I would a quilt and used graph paper to figure out the sizes of paper that I would need. And the paper I'm using today is Moda Scrap Color of Puppies Girl. But actually I'm making this as a baby card for my cousin's daughter who just had a baby boy. And I'm using the puppy paper in some plaid, and it's green and white and gray, so I think that could work for a boy. And you could make this same card using whatever paper you have, and it could be Christmas paper and make it into a Christmas card, or Easter paper, make it into an Easter card, whatever you want. I decided to use the puppy paper as a full square for my quilt blocks, and my quilt blocks are going to equal 1 7/16 inch square. And then to make the pinwheels, I need to make 4 squares that will fit into 1 7/16. So that's 11/16 of an inch square. And then I'll cut these squares in half to make triangles, and that's how I'll form my pinwheels. I'm using a Fiskars paper trimmer to cut my squares, but you could also use a pencil, a ruler, and scissors to do the same thing. So you could use this technique with very basic supplies. So for this design, I needed 5 pattern papers cut to 1 7/16 inch square, which is my puppy paper, and then 24 little squares of green and 24 of the plaid. Now the other thing I could have done is cut 6 of the green and 6 of the plaid as a full-size square, like I did the puppies, and then divide that by 4, which might have been easier. Then I have to cut those into triangles, which I just did with my scissors. After I got all my squares and triangles cut out, I referred back to my drawing and started gluing the triangles and squares onto my paper, following my diagram. So what I'm going to do is do alternating quilt blocks, 1 pinwheel, and then 1 puppy paper, and then a pinwheel. You could also do pinwheels on every square, and then you can also change the color. I decided I didn't want to do that because if I did cut the puppy paper up, then the puppies wouldn't be whole. I'm doing the bottom half of the square on the top of the card and the top half of the squares on the bottom of the card to give it a more uniform look. Also, I sped up the gluing quite a bit because I didn't think you'd want to watch me do this for a long time, but I wanted to show it all so you could see how to lay out the pinwheels. The other thing you could do is if you didn't have a pattern paper to go with your pinwheels, you could cut out plain paper for your alternating squares and stamp some images on them. So maybe on each one, stamp 1 single image, and then it'd kind of look like an embroidered square. So this technique really doesn't require many supplies at all. You just really need scissors and glue and a ruler, or you can use like I did with the paper cutter. And you can use any color paper you want, and I used some stamps for the sentiment and that's all I used. But you could vary it up with your different papers, and you could also use different quilt styles. Another one that would be probably really good is a 9-patch quilt. Instead of pinwheels, then do a 9-patch, which basically is just cutting 9 squares. The other basic supply I'm using, as you can tell, I'm just using an Elmer's glue stick. And I used to teach in the classroom, so I'm used to using glue sticks quite a bit. And this is something a lot of people have on hand. Or you can even use just regular Elmer's glue. One thing I like about this technique is it combines one of my other hobbies, which is quilt making. I've actually only made a couple quilt tops, and I haven't done the actual quilting where you do the needlework to put the layers together. But sometime in the future I'd like to learn how to do that. But I really like picking out the fabrics and picking out the different designs, and I think that's because I love geometry and I love patterns. And I get this from a lot of my relatives because I remember going to my grandparents' house and my great-aunt's house, actually a couple of my great-aunts, and even my great-grandmother's, which I didn't know, but we seen their quilts. And sometimes you would look at the quilts because all of our relatives a lot of times used old fabric or cut up old clothes to make quilts. I mean, these were true scrap quilts. And then you would look and go, oh, I remember that fabric. That's from a dress I wore in first grade, or that's from a dress that Grandma made for me, or Mom made for me, or things like that. So you would look at the different quilts and it'd bring back some different memories. Piece a little bit larger than the quilt blocks because the sentiment wouldn't quite fit. And then I went around this with a marker to look like stitching, and it looks like there's something on the back of this because I didn't stamp it very well. And I just used a sentiment from Fawn, and this is from one of their reveal wheels, and it's the spring sentiments from reveal wheel, and I just put on the words, "Congrats on your bundle of joy." And then I had some dog feet footprint stamps from a mama elephant, but you could use whatever stamps you have on hand to go with whatever card you're making. Here I'm just pulling up some of the triangles and putting on some additional paper because if you notice, some of my triangles wouldn't quite cover the whole white space. So next time I make one of these quilts, I think I would cut the paper just a little bit bigger than you actually need, and then you can overlap the paper. And then you don't have to worry about everything not quite covering. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate if you can subscribe and also check out some more of my videos. If you go below in my description, you can see the link to the next person on the hop. Some of them will be blogs and some of them will be YouTube videos. Thank you.